If you're not new here, you know what to do. Share the show with somebody you love. The show is, of course, brought to you today by my cowlick. So that's awesome. The best hair. Tremendous. Haircut is indicated. Today's show is called Bring a Shovel. And it's clickbait, but in a different way. We're going to talk about a little bit of hardship today. Hardship versus goodness. And what provision, protection, blessing looks like. We're also going to do an update on the Ukraine war, a brief one. And we're going to talk about these catastrophic train derailments that are apparently just accidentally happening across the country. Bring a shovel. Got a good word from a brother a few weeks ago. God will move a mountain for you, but you better bring a shovel. I'll repeat that. God will move a mountain for you, but you better bring a shovel. Why am I leading with that? Because I know that most of us are people of faith. And those that aren't, many are faith curious, if you will, which is a beautiful thing. Because it means hopefully our light is shining bright enough that people who aren't on fire, who aren't lit up, realize, hey, I want some of that, even though I might not quite understand it. Praise the Most High. That's a beautiful thing. But we as people of faith are going to endure hardship. It's going to happen. It's a fact. Whether it's end times or it's just another cycle that we're going through. Things are going to get worse before they get better. And there is a ton of scary stuff out there. And believe me, if you go looking for it, you're going to find it. It's there. What you gaze upon, you become. If you fill your life with chaos, it'll be chaos. If you fill your life with uncertainty and fear, that's what you'll have is uncertainty and fear. You reap what you sow. If you fill your life with goodness, you will reap goodness. If you, to borrow a phrase from my friend and pastor, do the best you can with what you got where you're at, things will go well for you. And how they go well for you might be vastly different than how they go well for me. But in either event, we would be blessed enough to experience the Creator's provision, protection, and blessing. And I felt convicted to lead with that today. Because every other stupid prepper channel, and I'm including myself in the phrase stupid prepper channels, are going to talk about what's literally or figuratively on fire. And laser beams being shot out of the sky, and spy balloons and trains on fire and the Ukraine war. And they're going to do it in a way that is designed to get you hyped up and focused on the problem, not the solution. And if we are going to endure what comes next, whether it's just another cycle or literally the end of the world as we know it, as we stand on the precipice of what is very likely World War III. If you're focused on the problems, you're going to find them. But if you're focused on solutions, you're going to find those. And if you're focused on the Father, you're going to find Him. And there's nothing better than finding Him. There's nothing better than coming home again after a long and dark journey. I want you guys and girls to think about that today. How do you walk better back to Dad? What does He need you to be doing? The most dangerous for your worldly existence prayer that one could ask is, why did you make me? What do you need me to do? And then do it. Even as the world falls apart. There's some really good news. You are to be in the world, but not of it. It's not your world that's falling apart. You are protected, provided for, and blessed. Don't lose sight of that, even as things get scarier and scarier. I wanted to lead with that because I felt convicted to. And if I've alienated some of you, forgive me for being unapologetic. Now, you better bring a shovel. Bear brief, 15 February 23. All U.S. citizens in Russia have been instructed to leave immediately by the U.S. State Department. And U.S. citizens have been told, do not travel to Russia. The embassy in Moscow warned, quote, exercise increased caution due to the risk of wrongful detentions. Russian security services have arrested U.S. citizens on spurious charges, singled out U.S. citizens in Russia for detention and harassment, denied them air and transparent treatment, and convicted them in secret trials with or without presenting credible evidence, end quote. Thank you for the super chats. I want to reiterate, that's a warning from the U.S. Embassy in Moscow regarding Russia. But I want you to superimpose the United States federal government. Think on that, and let me read this statement again. Warning, exercise increased caution due to the risk of wrongful detentions. Security services have arrested U.S. citizens on spurious charges, singled out U.S. citizens for detention and harassment, denied them air and transparent treatment, and convicted them in secret trials or without presenting credible evidence. Still holds true, doesn't it? So, a warning from the State Department of Beristan today to citizens of the United States of America. Exercise increased caution due to the risk of wrongful detentions. U.S. citizens cannot expect the usual amount of aid from the embassy because of limited staff, travel restrictions, and the suspension of consular services. Sanctions are complicating the situation, making the funds transfer difficult for those who need money to travel. The fact that this warning has been issued now is the most relevant point. The alert is certainly serious, though similar alerts have been issued several times during the invasion. However, this time, Russia's Soviet Army Day, it's like a big day for them, is 10 days away, and the anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine is 11 days away. Some experts believe Russia may choose this time to begin a massive assault before the spring thaws the ground into a muddy slurry. Now, the weather has been kind to the Ukrainians this past winter season, or this current winter season, depending on your geography. The ground never quite froze solid. Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. Tanks and mud don't mix very well. Armor and mud doesn't mix very well. And as always, we're at the mercy of OSINT and analysis to determine what Russia might do without really knowing what they will do. So everything is taken with a grain of salt. Everything is conjecture and opinion until they act. We don't know. Recently, 3 of Russia's military aircraft were escorted away from NATO airspace by Dutch fighter jets. It reminds me of what China is doing in Taiwan as far as flying their planes into their airspace. It is air defense intersomethingable zone. NATO maintains a strong stance against Russia, even as tensions continue with threats of nuclear war or World War III. Now, you guys know that it is my opinion that we are in World War III. Just most of the plebes, the sheeple, haven't woken up to this fact yet. Unfortunately, I think they will, probably this year. Joint Chiefs Chairman General Mark Milley said that Russia has already lost the war, saying that Putin, quote, thought he could defeat Ukraine quickly, fracture the NATO alliance, and act with impunity. He was wrong, end quote. We shall see. Mass sentiment heavily favors Ukraine and condemns Russia too. Milley also said, quote, Russia is now a global pariah, and the world remains inspired by Ukrainian bravery and resilience. In short, Russia has lost. They lost strategically, operationally, and tactically, end quote. Nothing that's said at that level is said off the cuff. It's all part of the messaging. There's speeches that are drafted and then curtailed and edited and rewritten and approved or re-edited again and then approved and then delivered, all to hit the talking points of the big they, whoever you think the big they are. The WEF, the World Economic Forum, the Templars, the reptilian overlords, whoever you define they as, they have an agenda. And their talking pieces, their talking heads will say what they want them to say. And yes, Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Mark Milley is very, very, very likely a pawn in their game. NATO, the heads of NATO, are very, very, very likely pawns in their game. One does not rise to that level of influence and power within that system without being a part of the game. Russian casualties are estimated to be getting close to 200,000. It's estimated that the Ukrainians have lost about 500,000 people. The reporting is very difficult to get accurately. And those Ukrainian numbers include a whole bunch of civilian casualties, as well as, and I have this from 3 different witnesses, 2 of which work in the anti-human trafficking industry. So I believe them. When I say work in, we'll just say they're networked globally. More than 1 million Ukrainian children have been abducted and moved out of Ukraine into Russian territories. That's done for a handful of reasons. 1, evil. 2, to demoralize the Ukrainians. 3, for demography. Because if we're missing 1 million children, sooner or later you'll be missing 1 million adults if you're the Ukrainians, as well as the offspring that any of those children would have produced. And if you're Russia and your demographics suck and you're short on a supply of children, adding 1 million children to your demography helps you in the long run. Because part of why Russia considers this fight in Ukraine with NATO an existential threat is because of their failing demography. They're running out of people. And so 500,000 casualties, including civilians on the Ukrainian side thus far, best estimate, in addition to the 1 million or more children who have been abducted and brought back to Russia. Still, Russia continues to throw bodies at the problem. Ukraine has not recovered its lost territory. America and much of the West continues to pour money and resources into Ukraine, and the conflict continues. A couple of articles I want to look at this morning. I had a lot of questions recently in the chat regarding the chemical spill in Pennsylvania, and now another train derailment in Texas, and World War III and nuclear war and blah, blah, blah. There are lots of companies that sell gas masks. If you think you need one, that's up to you. That's between you and your spouse and your budget. Okay? It doesn't necessarily hurt you to have one the way this country is headed, the way the world is headed right now. And it's easy to say, well, the United States would never get nuked. I don't know about that. But yeah, that's probably a lower probability than another train derailment or another feed plant or food processing facility set on fire or whatever, more asymmetric attacks on the grid and infrastructure. So there are a lot of people that sell gas masks. There's one company that I trust, and they don't pay me to say this. That company's Mira Safety, M-I-R-A, Safety. I know the guys at Mira, they're good folks. I have their products. Obviously, I'm not using their products today because you can see the beard on my face. But when I need a gas mask, CBurn, anything of that nature, I use Mira. Are there better products out there, more effective products? Sure. If you've got $4,000 to $8,000, absolutely. But if you don't, and you're looking to spend a couple $100 on a product that works and has gone through some pretty rigorous testing, Mira Safety. And again, I don't make a dime by telling you that. Okay. I have no vested interest in what brand you buy. I'm telling you what I use. I use Mira. All right. So, to an article from RT, not refugetraining.com. We'll talk about them later. Russian propaganda RT. Dateline February. Kiev, February 15th, 23. Kiev plotting Chernobyl provocation, according to Moscow. Ukraine and its backers want to accuse Moscow of causing radiation contamination, the defense ministry has said. Kiev and its Western supporters are planning to accuse Russia of contaminating parts of Ukraine with radiation from the Chernobyl exclusion zone. Norway is named as one of the alleged co-conspirators. The statement from the Russian ministry came on Tuesday and asserted that Kiev will accuse the Russian military of breaching safety protocols when it controlled the Chernobyl nuclear power plant last year. It will be claimed that Russian troops spread radioactive materials across Ukraine and looted the containment and control facilities. Now, something to think about, especially as we talk about nuclear weapons, tactical nukes, dirty bombs, etc. One of the key issues with the nuclear weapon is it a huge deterrent? Yes. Does it destroy morale? Yes. It also destroys whatever's underneath it, whatever that bomb got dropped on, and whatever's in the direction of the prevailing winds. And so if you want to occupy an area, nuclear weapons are not very smart. And one of the reasons I think that Russia may not use nuclear weapons is because the Soviet doctrine of having highly mobile, highly trained soldiers who are fully equipped to operate in a CBurn environment to drop a nuclear weapon and then occupy it with their armor and their well-trained, well-equipped people doesn't hold up based upon what we've seen in the Ukraine war so far. The Russians are not terribly mobile. They're not highly trained. Their log train for their equipment is falling apart, has been falling apart. And so, per Soviet doctrine, if they're going to drop a nuclear weapon and then go occupy an area, they can't. They're still fighting over the regions that they claimed a year ago, Luhansk, Donetsk, Crimea. And so the employment of tactical or strategic nuclear weapons on Ukrainian soil doesn't make sense per Soviet doctrine. Doesn't have to make sense for an egomaniac to use them. So it's not something that we can rule out. But if we're all thinking with a clear head about the employment of tactical or strategic nuclear weapons, the doctrine that the Soviets put forth for the use of those weapons, and much of that doctrine is being used in the ground warfare in Ukraine right now, they don't have the ability to perform the methodologies required by that doctrine currently. They're not highly mobile. They're not highly trained. Their equipment's failing. They don't have the CBRN gear. So if you're going to nuke something, big bomb or little bomb, it makes very little sense to nuke something that you want to occupy. And the Russians want to occupy Ukraine. So, possible deterrent. Back to the article from RT. The Chernobyl site, infamous for the 1986 disaster, was under Russian control between February 24th and April 28th. In September, the International Atomic Agency reported on nuclear safety in Ukraine, detailing its visits to the exclusion zone amid the armed conflict. The IAEA, International Nuclear whatever, addressed Kiev's claim of looting by, air quote, marauders at the Chernobyl site. It assessed that the alleged incidents, quote, did not pose a significant radiological risk since all activities involving the handling of radioactive material were stopped under Russian control. And the article goes on from here. But Moscow, the Russians are claiming that Ukraine, Kiev, is going to say that Russia caused a radiological disaster emanating from the Chernobyl site when they had control of it. So propaganda game, something to be aware of. It again illustrates, and the reason I bring this up is not only does it tie into the update on what's happening in Ukraine, but also for us as Americans, we have a lot of nuclear sites. Nuclear is actually pretty damn safe when it comes to producing energy. But when nuclear fails, it fails catastrophically. And as we continue to see attacks on American infrastructure, it's something that I think we should all be aware of. It's possible. Now, again, I don't want anybody losing their damn minds over this. You do not have my permission to geek out and freak out and get stuck in a rabbit hole about what happens if there's a nuclear attack or a nuclear power plant is undermined here in the United States of America. But it should be a plan that you should be considering, should be thinking about. Do I still have a live stream? Yes, I'm still allowed to talk on the internet. No, thank you, robotic YouTube policemen. New York Times, Ohio train derailment. After the Ohio train derailment, evacuations, toxic chemicals, and water worries. Now, on Monday's brief, many people got confused because we were talking about the train derailment in East Palestine, Pennsylvania. Is it Ohio, Pennsylvania? It's right there. We were also talking about training in Lebanon, Pennsylvania. So train versus training. RT, Refuge Training, is doing a class in Lebanon, Pennsylvania. That is different than the train that came off the tracks in East Palestine.
That's my bad.
It shit happens. I absolve you.
Thanks, God.
You're welcome. This month, a train carrying toxic chemicals derailed in eastern Ohio, igniting a fire that covered the town of East Palestine in smoke. Fearful of a major explosion, the authorities carved out an evacuation zone and carried out a controlled release of toxic fumes to neutralize burning cargo inside some of the train cars. Now, it's interesting that the government can set all these chemicals on fire, but they're worried about the emissions from your vehicle and your gas stove. Also, I just want to point this out. Pastor Joe Fox of Viking Preparedness did a good video yesterday on his Patreon, basically talking about Wag the Dog. And with all these things that have been shot down and all these other things that are happening in the news, what are we not hearing about? And he and I are very similar in belief and thought. And I've been having these same thoughts as well. So I'm jumping off of his video. I'm not copying his video.
You guys are friends.
We are, and we're also friends. We do life together. So we're not hearing about the Hunter Biden laptop. We're not hearing about the classified documents that Joe Biden, as vice president of the United States, was in possession of, which is a clear breach of law. We're not hearing about whatever the next pandemic is going to be. We're not hearing about died suddenly. We're not hearing about the economic collapse that is basically imminent in the United States of America. We're not hearing about infrastructure attacks, food shortages. We're talking about UFOs that are UFOs in name only. They are unidentified flying objects. They're freaking balloons, people. Okay. We're hearing about balloons. We're hearing a little bit about Russia, a little bit about China and Taiwan, but we're not hearing about all this other stuff. We're not hearing about Twitter and their clear collusion with federal agencies to limit the free speech and target American citizens. Right? And so the media can't tell you what to think, but it can absolutely tell you what to think about. And there's this normalcy bias where we who try to be informed will scour the internet, scour the news, scour all of that to try and find details on these things. And then if we have enough details to form a picture about all of these things, we feel informed without realizing that the vast majority of the things that one needs to be thinking about or be aware of are not being discussed at all. So you might be fully or mostly informed on a small purview of reality, but you're certainly not considering all of these other things. And that in of itself is a tactic. By flooding the market, if you will, by flooding all of these sources with information, it eats the most precious resource that you have, which is time. You spend all this time digging on these things that don't necessarily matter without processing the fact that 6 media companies, 6, control 98% of information on planet Earth. So they can't tell you what to think, but they can tell you what to think about. And if they don't tell you all these other things, it's not even on your radar. That's part of why we, especially when you're doing your OSINT, open source intelligence gathering, or human or rumen or SIGINT, or pick an int, whatever you're doing, knowing what you don't know is just as important as knowing what you know. So we have to be careful not to jump too deep into these rabbit holes. Some rabbit holes they're enjoyable. I like this thing. It makes the neurons in my brain bounce around and spark when they bump into each other, right? That's fun. But it's not a full picture of what's going on, nor will it likely ever be a full picture of what's going on, because we just don't know. But things to think about. Whenever all these different channels, all these different sources, all these different people start talking about the same thing at the same time with the same words, A, what are they not telling us? And B, what are they distracting us from? What's the real news here? And then C, perhaps most importantly for me and my ethos, what can I do about it? And if the answer is nothing, okay, roger that. Gain as much intel as I can to get a good understanding and move on. If there's nothing I can do about it, next. Focus on what you can do, not what you can't do. That's why a lot of people get so spun up about this preparedness stuff, because the big they are doing all of these things. Roger that. Take your game piece and jump off the game board. I don't want to be a pawn in their game. Awesome, bro. Get up and walk off the game board. Flip the damn game board over. Walk out of the building. Not playing anymore. So don't allow them to exert any more influence over you than they need to. And I would submit they need to exert zero influence and control over you, over me. Right? I much prefer dangerous freedom to comfortable slavery. Yes, things are scary. Things are weird. I don't like it. Awesome. I will figure that shit out. Between me and my creator and my wife and my family and my friends and the people that I love, we're going to figure that out to the best of our ability. And oh no, what if it doesn't work out? You're telling me that this system, that this game board is working out real good? It's not looking so hot being a checker on the checkerboard right now. I'm going to go over here and start as a pawn on a chessboard that's a completely different game, and maybe work my way up to rook, bishop, king one day. But don't play their damn game. Get up off of the game board. Be independent of the broken, fragile system. They, the big they, want you subjected to their input, to their will, to their force if necessary. That's why they don't want you to have firearms. They don't want you to be able to resist. They want you stupid, not well educated. They want you poor, not profitable. They want you fat, not fit. They want you sick, not healthy, so that you can be subjected. I'm good. I'm good, bro. I'm not interested in any of that. That's why I want to pull you out of that system. That's why I want to encourage you to get out of that system. And again, if you're a person of faith, this is Babylon, the whore. Alas, Babylon has fallen. Alas? Bro. At some point, we're all going to be shaking our fists in the air cheering that Babylon has gotten the judgment that she deserves. The trick is, don't be in it. Lot was not in Sodom and Gomorrah when they got smoked. And it was only because of the intercession of a righteous man that he wasn't. Things to think on this morning. Back to this train wreck. Around 9 p.m. on February the 3rd, a train derailed in East Palestine, Ohio, a village of about 4,700 residents, about 50 miles northwest of Pittsburgh. There were 150 cars on the route from Madison, Illinois to Conway, Pennsylvania. NTSB, which is investigating, said on 15FEB yesterday that 38 cars derailed and a fire ensued, which damaged another 12 cars. The train, operated by Norfolk Southern, had been carrying chemicals and combustible materials, with vinyl chloride, a toxic flammable gas, being the most concern to investigators. A huge fire erupted from the derailment, sending thick billowing smoke into the sky and over the town. Residents on both sides of the Ohio-Pennsylvania border were ordered to evacuate as Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio raised alarms about a possible explosion. They are now, by the way, saying that the water's fine, the air's fine, the soil's fine, everything's fine. You should totally come back. And Norfolk Southern has been super kind and has offered a whopping $25,000 total to the community for recovery. Local and federal officials started an investigation that involved the NTSB and Environmental Protection Agency. The NTSB said its investigation included examining tank car fittings, the locomotive event data recorder, and surveillance video from a residence that showed what appeared to be the failure of a wheel bearing moments before the derailment. And it appears that the wheel bearing went out, sparks flying from the wheel, that caused a fire. The fire spread, boom, boom, bang, bang, toxic chemical spill. I would also point out, for all those people who say, I'm never bugging out, I say with love in my heart, you're full of shit. You can live in the best place possible with a low population density and good neighbors, and there will always be external environmental factors that could cause someone to have to leave their house in a hurry. This could be one of them. So, and it's not just having a bug out bag, which you should have, but it's having a bug out plan, bug out vehicle, bug out kit, then bug out bag. And if you need pointers on all that, free YouTube playlist here, The Prepper Classroom. It's free. It's 30 videos, whiteboard, broken down Barney style, 101 level learning on all those things. So it's more than the Panamanian paratroopers landed 3 towns away and we got a bug out. It could be a damn train car came off the tracks. On February 10th, the EPA said that about 20 rail cars were reported to have been carrying hazardous materials, chemicals including vinyl chloride, butyl acrylate, ethyl hexyl acrylate, and ethylene glycol monobutyl ethers were, quote, known to have been and continue to be, air quote, released to the air, surface soil, and surface waters, according to the EPA. Now, what's interesting here to me is that I, on large wind turbine jobs, have spilled things like a splash of hydraulic fluid. and have had to dig up the soil that was affected by the hydraulic fluid, double bag it in trash bags, put it inside a 55-gallon container, lined drum, seal the lid on, mark it as hazmat, and then pay it to have that removed from the job site because of the EPA. But if you run a damn train off the tracks and cause a national incident, 3 days later, you can drink the water. It's fine. You can breathe the air. It's fine. No big deal. On February 12th, the EPA, after monitoring the air, said it had not detected contaminants at levels of concern in or around East Palestine, although residents might still smell odors. Working with Norfolk Southern and Columbiana County Emergency Management Agency, the EPA had screened the air inside about 290 homes as of 13 February and said it had not detected vinyl chloride or hydrogen chloride, which could cause life-threatening respiratory issues. An additional 181 homes were still awaiting screening as of 2 days ago. Fearing an explosion, the authorities performed a controlled release of the toxic materials from 5 train tankers on February 6th, and the contents were diverted to a trench and burned off. And it looks exactly like a war zone. In Houston, or outside of Houston, train derailment update. Cleanup continues following deadly crash in Splendora. The East Montgomery County Fire Department reports the driver of a truck involved in the crash with the train has died. Track repairs and rail car removal continued Wednesday morning, that's today, following a deadly train derailment in Montgomery County on Monday morning, according to the Splendora Police Department. The driver of an 18-wheeler was killed when his truck was hit by the train as he was driving across the railroad, police said. This happened just before 7:30 a.m. along the Eastex Freeway near Midline Road. Emergency crews responded Monday morning after reports that there was a train derailment and it crashed into an 18-wheeler. Splendora police said the train was heading south when the big rig crossed the tracks and was hit. The 18-wheeler was dragged more than a half a mile down the tracks. The driver has died. Police said there's no guard arms or lights at this crossing where the crash took place, but the driver of the truck should have had a clear line of sight to see the train coming. Freeway was closed for a few hours. Shots from the air showed several cars off the tracks near the crash. Splendora police said about 15 cars derailed in the crash. Hazmat crews also responded to the scene, but there were no reported leaks from the box cars. The crew cleaned up the spilled diesel fuel from the truck. Now, coincidence? Possible. Likely? Maybe not. This has been forecasted. We talked about this a couple of years ago with the attacks on truck drivers and the trucking industry pushing more freight to rail lines where they have fewer rail workers, some of which recently tried to go on strike. But, don't worry, we have governmental oversight. It will all be okay. And so whether it's accidental or somebody made this happen / let it happen, you're going to probably see more and more and more of these types of things. Catastrophic failure of infrastructure. Some people think that the world will end with a big bang. Others think it will go out with a whimper. I lean more towards whimper. I think our way of life will become unsustainable, and frankly has been unsustainable for a long time. And that system, that whore of Babylon, will continue to be a whore. So don't get pissy when she doesn't treat you like a wife. So build something good outside of that. Build your self-reliance. Build your resiliency. Build your relationship with the Father. Build your relationships with the people that you love that are around you. Do meaningful things. Be the hands and feet. Use all these indicators to spur you into action, not to spin you up, get you caught up in the cycle of fear and doubt and shame and uncertainty and depression. All those things are negative. I don't want that for you. I don't think it's my job to do that to you. I want you to be better than you are now. I want you to leave here better than you came here. That's the point of this channel. Bear independent. Independent of the broken, fragile system. That's the show for today. As I mentioned at the beginning of the brief, today's show is brought to you by my cowlick. So if you'd like to find out how to support my cowlick, stick around. If you don't, this is your opportunity to beat feet, skedaddle, get out of here. Have a blessed day. Shalom. For everybody else, I'm going to go pee while the COO of RefugeRadical.corn tells you about the Bear Fact 2.0.
Refuge Radical.
Corn. Hey, Bear Nation. My name's Bob. You and I have met before sometimes. This is the Bearman 2.0, which the Bear guy wanted me to talk about. It's on sale right now for $219. It's the kit of the week. We just revamped it. We added boo-boo capability. So now you have the blowout capability and the boo-boo capability, because a lot of people really miss the Cub kit and how the Cub kit have boo-boo capability. And so we looked at the Bearman 2.0 and we were like, dang, that's a pretty freaking good looking kit right there. It'd be a lot better if it could, cover that cut on my finger. And so we made it able to do that. So yeah, made in America by American hands, by good, hardworking people. This kit right here, let me see the tag. This was made in Fort Smith, so I can tell by the stitch pattern on the tag. Great kit right here. We also have free bleeding prevention kits, which is our new bleeding control kit made by Refuge. Whole thing manufactured by Refuge. The BPKs are free for anyone who buys a training class right now. So Refuge Medical is trying to give you guys the tool, and the BPK that you're going to get is the same training kit that you'll use in class. So it'll get replaced right after it with new components after your training course, which is really, really useful. And so between those two things right there, you guys got a lot to focus on. I mean, the Bearman 2.0, the free bleeding prevention kit, I don't know, dude, I mean, that's kind of the cat's pajamas right there.
It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to brag. I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence, you know.
Did you tell them about the promo code?
The what?
No.
Bear Nation promo code?
No. So yes, you have a promo code, Bear Nation. Bear Nation gets you free shipping on everything in the store. And if you guys drive vehicles, you know that fuel is expensive, and so that saves you some serious cash. So don't forget to use your promo code. Bear Nation also gets you a discount on all training. So you get 5% off your training there too. So that way you can kind of double dip and get some of those discounts. And it doesn't count against the free BPK or the fact that the Bearman's on sale. It's not going to be like, oh, your promo code doesn't work. No, that's stupid. Your promo code still works. It's still awesome. You're good to go. There's a bear behind me. Bye.
Good job, Bob.
What does promo code Spy Baroon get you? Compromised.
Set it up right now. It costs you 20% more.
Yeah. You spend 20% extra when you use promo code Spy Baroon.
Actually, we just get all your data. So, all right. Good job. So you talked about Refuge Medical, Bearman, HSA, and FSA.
I didn't mention HSA and FSA.
Everything's HSA and FSA eligible except for the nuclear pills. You can take that up with the insurance company. We tried.
Some of them do pay for it. I had somebody email and said, I paid for it.
So, okay. So some HSAs do pay for nuclear pills. Everybody else, not so much. Buckets are in stock. BCKs are in stock. Bare minimums in stock. The Bear FAC is in stock. Go check that out. All right. Okay, Bear. Cowlick is gone. RL noticed. Yeah, I did a little schmoosh while I was in the restroom after I washed my hands. Patreon. There's a link in the description of every video and live stream that links to Patreon. It's $5 a month. It's the best $5 you can spend on the internet when it comes to preparedness. That sounds like a very egotistical thing to say, but we deliver more than 20 pieces of exclusive content a month there. And one of the feedback pieces that I get consistently from patrons is, there's just so much I can barely keep up. You're welcome. So thank you to everybody who supports the show, all the patrons, the Patreon family. I would not do this show if it was not for you guys and girls. It is. This is not a woe is me, but suffice it to say that attempting to do business with YouTube is a giant pain in my ass on the daily. And so Patreon is not only the economic engine of the Bear Nation, it's also a very big source of morale for me. So thank you. Refuge Training, there are classes. Refuge Training, not train derailment, Refuge Training. There are classes in Pennsylvania, not the part of Pennsylvania that's on fire.
Very specific.
There, Refuge Training. There are classes in Pennsylvania, Indiana, Texas, Oklahoma, although the Oklahoma class is completely sold out, Alabama, and Idaho. And those are at a minimum, the only public classes we are posting for the next 90 days, possibly for the next 360 days. So please take advantage of those classes. The reason for that is we have a considerably large workload of private classes that we're going to be focusing on this year, as well as a couple of pretty impactful strategic partnerships, which I will tell you more about as they materialize. But if you'd like to have a private class for your church, for your agency, for your small business or large business, your organization, your SHTF team, your mutual assistance group, whatever it may be, thank you, Pipe Hawk Patriot. I appreciate you. Check out refugetraining.com. Send us an email, admin@refugetraining.com, for private classes, admin@refugetraining.com. And we can specify the curriculum to whatever level you would like. Whatever level you would like. Responder 1 is accessible from 8 years old to 88 years old. Responder 2, pretty much the same. Responder 1 is stop the bleed, March algorithm, massive bleeding, airway, respiratory, circulation, head injury, hypothermia, everything else. Like, essentially, if you have a kit like this, but you don't know what to do with it, or it's been a hot minute since you've been trained, responder 1 is where you want to start.
Yep.
You walk into that room as an innocent bystander, you leave as a responder. Responder 2 is CPR, AED, both with a tactical mindset. And by the way, tactical means wherever violence has happened. That could be in the middle of a road after a car crash. Okay. So CPR and AED in a tactical environment, as well as an introduction to scenario-based training where you will work with your kit, with instructors, with fake blood, with crisis actors, with role players, a motor vehicle accident. And it's very impactful. And the learning points are tremendous from responder 2. And then responder 3 is a 10-hour tactical medicine, civilian tactical medicine course that teaches force on force, CASEVAC, medevac, active shooters, situational awareness, and it has single, one-off, like individual training scenarios, as well as group and team training scenarios. It's tremendous. And I can tell you right now, responder 3, the responder 3 dates that are up on the board are the ones that are up on the board. So if you'd like access to any of that, refugetraining.com. And again, promo code Bear Nation will get you 5% off. And 5% probably doesn't sound like a whole lot, but unlike every other training company, we're coming to you. And it's very expensive. It's very time consuming logistically to move a team of trainers and all of their equipment and support personnel and all that all across the country to come be near where you are. And so we would ask that if there's a class anywhere near you, if you're interested, consider coming to class. Lastly, Grindstone Ministries. You can give online at grindstoneministries.com. And as always, all the links are in the description. If you'd like to support our ongoing missions of disaster relief and anti-human trafficking, grindstoneministries.com. Please continue to keep that 3-year-old that I told you about in prayer. Anti-human trafficking is a big deal. There's a lot of people that talk about doing it. There's a lot of people who are raising awareness. There are far fewer people that are actually doing it. And we are involved both on the rescue side and the recovery side, the rehabilitation side. And we could not do that without you. So thank you for pouring into us. Thank you for trusting us to be good stewards. And I have to tell you, it's difficult for me because I can never show you the fruits of that. I will never parade one of these children across the camera. Go, here's little Johnny. We got little Johnny when he was a 1-year-old. Now he's 18. See what a good job we did? I'm not Sarah McLachlan. I'm not going to do it. Not only is it a violation of operational security to the utmost degree, it's a violation of trust between me and little Johnny. It's not what we're about. And I struggle with the fact that I cannot show you fruits. I can't do it. And I mean this humbly. I don't answer to you. I answer to the Creator. And I am incapable, whether I like it or not, of doing anything other than what he tells me to do. And man, I bear that burden some days. I feel it. I wear that weight around. But I appreciate y'all trusting me, trusting us to be diligent with that responsibility, to be good stewards of that. Because it's literal when I say we could not do what we do without you. So thank you for supporting us. You can find t-shirts, long sleeves, hoodies that support Caleb House, which is our restoration facility, in the links below. You can also find a link to Brother Saw's shirt, Facts Not Feelings. A portion of the proceeds go to help build Caleb House as well. With all of that, keep us in your prayers. There's a lot of people who like to talk about, going to war with the darkness, right? There's a lot of people who want to go kick doors. They want to throw their plate carrier on and feel good about themselves for a few hours. The work has just begun. The work has just begun. You're just getting started when you pull that plate carrier off. And there's no glory in it. It's messy. It's frustrating. It will break your heart. It's not sexy. It's not cool. Nobody really cares. Nobody really cares, or very few people really care when it's time to pull the plate carrier off. It's high fives, good job. We came home, we did good work. Yeah, that's important. That matters. Then what? And I'm incapable of looking a kid in the face and saying, you got 6 months to get your life together, then get out of here. Or, hey, you're free. Don't know where you're going now. That's not our job. Our job is to break generational curses and to provide a biblical covering to widows and orphans. And that's what we're doing to the best of our ability, and we couldn't do it without you. I see the pain on your face, Bear. Yup. To whom much is given, much is required. And he who can be trusted with little can be trusted with much. And I'll end with this. If I bear the burden of a couple dozen people, and I bear that burden with a team of badasses, and it breaks me some days, what did Messiah do? He took all of it by himself. All of it. The massive effect of that is incalculable. The strength and obedience it takes for that is unheard of. We're still talking about it 2,000 years later. 2 billion people have bent their life in such a way as to arc towards that goal of being even a piece, even just a little bit that strong, even just a little bit that righteous, even just a little bit that compassionate. So it's not about me. It's not about us. It's about me, about us trying to walk as he walked to the best of our broken ability. And we're not perfect. But damn if we don't try to do the best that we can every day to be obedient to him and to be his hands and feet. Because he did that for us. He was perfect for us. He did take all of it for us. Why? So that we could be weaponized for good, to go and serve others, to be compassionate, to love our neighbor as ourself, to love God with everything that we've got, to go execute with righteous authority. Do not be afraid of evil, to fear nothing but Yahweh, your Elohim, the Lord your God. And man, if I can do a little bit of that every day because of y'all, praise Yah. I'm out. I love y'all. Have a blessed day. Shalom.